Karla Schaefer, designer for Antiques Beads, and I'll be demonstrating how to make a macrame bracelet using Czech glass 2-hole lentils. The tools and supplies needed for this project is a macrame beadboard by Beadsmith. I'm going to be using super lawn thread. I'm also going to be using a 2-hole Czech glass lentil bead. You'll need a toggle clasp, a T-pin. We'll need fire line and a needle to thread our beads on to our super lawn. We're also going to be adding a breast cancer awareness charm, so we'll need the charm and a jump ring. We'll need a flush cutter, 2 pairs of chain nose pliers, and a pair of beading tweezers. Alright, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to be using 2 holding threads in the center. And so what I've done is I took the length of my thread to the board, so I doubled it. So I did 28 inches, which I know is way more than I need. And then for the outer thread, or the working threads, again, it's 3 times the size of the bracelet that you want, but I always add a little extra. So it would have been, if I wanted a 7-inch bracelet, it would have been 21 inches, but I generally do things to about 28 to 30 inches, and I also doubled that. So I've got my threads folded in the center, and I'm just going to make a lark's head through my toggle clasp. So I've got them together, and I'm going to run them through this toggle. And a lark's head is simply where you loop your thread and then pull your ends through it. Now we've got a secure lark's head knot here at our toggle. And now I'm going to take it to our board. This is a self-healing board, so it's okay to go ahead and poke pins in it. And I'm going to take a T-pin and I'm going to place it right here, and I'm just going to put it in between my 7 and my 8-inch mark so I can have my measurements on my grid here. Then I'm going to find my 2 shorter threads, which are going to be my middle threads, put them in the center. I'm going to put them together down into the notch, and then my 2 working threads, I'm just going to separate them out, 1 on each side. You can go ahead and add your beads now, or we can go ahead and start our knots for the initial part of the bracelet and then add our beads. It really doesn't matter, but I think what I'm going to do now is, this is how your board should be set up, and I'm just going to make a couple of knots to begin with. I'm actually going to do about a 1/2 inch of knots from the toggle down to this 1/2 inch mark, and we're going to do a variation of a square knot, but since we're using 2 threads here in the center, I'm going to take my first thread and I'm going to place it over the first thread and under the second. Like this. Then I'm going to take this other working thread. It's going to go on top of the thread that we just brought over. It's going to go over and under. So it's going to go over the first thread and under the second one and through the loop. And we're going to do just like it looks just like a pretzel or that square knot, how it looks. And we're just going to bring it up and knot it like this. And whether you start with your left or the right, it doesn't matter, but stay consistent. So that I've got 1/2 of a knot there, and I'm going to go again. And if you'd like to help you on this, you can go ahead and separate these 2 threads here between your 7 and your 8. Get them a little separated. And actually I've got them crossed, so let me fix that. This might make it easier for you to get them, make sure that you're getting them under and over. So again, I'm going to take, I'm going to run it under, over the first thread, under the second. This one we want under the thread we just brought over the first, under the second, and through the loop. And both of your threads should be coming out of the loop like this, and then you just bring them up. And we're just going to continue this pattern for 1/2 inch, and then we'll start adding our beads. All right, I've almost got a half an inch of knots here, and I just want to go over the knots again. I'm going to bring it over, go under the second thread here. I'm going to go under the working thread, and again go under over the first, under the second, through the loop. And pull. And again. Over the first, under the second, and through the loop. And then you can knot. Now I'm going to string on our beads onto our thread, and we're using 2 whole lentils. This pattern is usually you would put 2 beads on this string, but I thought it would be cool to work with the 2 whole lentils, so we're just going to string. I'm not going to string all the beads that I need on here, but I'm just going to string a few on to show you how to put them within the work. And again, you just want to string your fire line into a loop, tie the knot off at the needle, and then string your thread through your super line and string on a bead and pull it down. This is just the easiest way to get beads on super line. They go in pretty easily. I'm just going to string some. Then I'm going to string the other side, so I'm going to pull these through. And I've got myself a little knot here. And again, I said tweezers are good when you end up needing to pull a knot out or something within the work. They kind of help you work that thread through. I'm going to go ahead and put this down. Grab the other string and string it through my loop of fire line. You want to be sure you're going down the thread through the hole of the bead. And again, we're just going to pull this through. Yep. And I just came unknotted, which happens. But just re-knot this thread and string your other strand through your beads, and we'll show you how to knot those on. Now that I've got my other strand through my lentils here, as you can see, I've got the lentils on both strands in the middle, and I replaced them back into here. And I still left them a little separated, just so it'll be easier for you all to see how to tie this. So now we're back up to where we started, where we ended our knots for the 1/2 inch here. And we're going to do the same thing, except for we're going to have this bead up in here, up against the knot. So we're going to do the same configuration again. We're going to go over the first thread, under the second, and again, same thing, over and under and through the loop. Now what we're going to do is we're going to make sure that's snug up against those knots, and then we're just going to pull this knot. This is only half of our knot, like this, and then we would do the same thing, go in the other direction, over the first, under the second, and our working thread under, okay, over the first, under the second, and through the loop. And then go ahead and slide up the next bead. Now I'm doing this in sections of 3 for this bracelet. Of course you can do it all the way down, but I was putting a whole knot in the center, in between each bead, and then I was doing sections of 3 and then a 1/2 inch of knots in between. And again, want this to be under over, under, and through the loop. Then I'm going to bring up the last bead of the group and do the same thing. You'll be able to tell if you've made a mistake pretty much right here. If you don't have both of these end threads, let me show you. If you don't have both of your threads coming out of this loop, one's like underneath, then you know you haven't done the knot correctly. So just want to make sure that you have them both coming out like that. And one more knot. Go over and under. That didn't get under. Over and under. Here we go. And then under the working thread, over and under and through the loop. And then from here I would do another 1/2 inch of knots and then your next set of 3. Now that I have a majority of the bracelet finished, I'm just going to simply do my last beads and then we'll show you how to add the end of the clasp. And all I've done again is done about a 1/2 inch of knots in between each section. And I'll do about 6 sections of 3 for a 7.5 inch bracelet. Of course, that can be adapted to the size that you need or the length. And it's just pretty much a repetitive pattern here. And you can change it up however you like. I was just trying to find a way to use the lentils in the macrame. I thought this turned out nice. And slide the next one up. I think it would be fun to try this with the triangles also. I haven't done that yet, but I thought that would be kind of a more of a spiky like bracelet. I think I get off on this sometimes, and you just kind of have to be conscious of where you started. I'm pretty sure that I've done it wrong on occasions, but no, it seems to work out fine anyway. And I'm on my last bead here. I'm going to tighten this up from the bottom. And right here, as I said before, if you don't have both threads coming out of that loop, then we misstep somewhere and you're just going to pull it through here. And I've got my knot. Now as I can see, I am about 6 inches and I'd probably need another 6.5 to make my bracelet. So I'm just going to do again just some plain knots now that I'm out of beads until I get that 1/2 inch mark, and then we'll tie off into our end of our bar toggle. Then my threads are getting a little shorter, so it's going to be a little less to work with here. And just make sure you get it straightened out here. And we're almost done, almost to the 1/2 inch mark here. And again, I didn't do that right, so I'm just going to pull this out a little bit. My thread wasn't through the loop here. There we go. Now I'm going to remove it from the board. Just going to take the pin off and pull it out. I'm just going to take all the threads here and I'm going to trim them so I don't have any real long pieces. And we're just going to add it to our bar of our loop of our clasp. We're just going to simply make an overhand knot right here toward the end. And then you may want to drop a little glue on it or use your thread burner to get your ends as close to the knot as possible. I'm going to trim it. Then I may go back and add a little glue to the ends just to keep everything in place. And I want it down as close as I can get it to the braid, and go ahead and tie it one more time. Make sure I have a nice and clean knot. As I said, I trimmed that off, drop some glue on it, or use your thread burner. And then all you would need to do is add your charm to the clasp with your jump ring. I'm just going to add it right here. Of course, this can be done in any colors for your awareness group or without. And we have completed our lentil macrame bracelet.